Well, another school shooting down in Winder, Georgia. Okay, in Barrow County. I didn't know anything about the area. I looked it up. I wikied it. They say Winder's got a population of about 18,000. Barrow County of about 80-some thousand. So, not a a high density area. It doesn't sound like to me. Now, for all I know, maybe it's right on the edge of Atlanta. Those of you who know better than I, let me know. Okay. But of course, a tragedy. First off, our prayers for everyone involved, for the uh, for the victims, for those dead and wounded, for their families. And I'll tell you what, I know that people are going to say there's evil involved here, but prayers for the shooter also, because we know there could be things going on, right? We know that. We're not going to talk about a lot of those things that many of us are questioning right now, but many of us, we saw this coming. We expected it. We said that we expected these things to happen, not just because school was back in, but because it's an election year, and we know why these things happen, right? Okay, so we're not going to get into that because there's no reason to. We know, and there's no reason to get stuff stirred up and jeopardize our message being able to get out there. So, tragic situation, obviously. I have some questions, even though we're not going to. Now, they've said they have the suspect in custody, a 14-year-old boy, real boy, but that gives us a problem also. They're not going to identify them because they're a juvenile. Okay, so, if they had come out right away and said, well, the suspect is Billy Bob Smith, we would have known, right? Anything else, if they don't identify the shooter, we know there's stuff going on behind the scenes. Okay, now I have some questions. First off, we're going to find out. We will find out what kind of weapon was used, and I think we can all guess, right? We can all guess. I mean, there's a lot of victims, 30 wounded, 4 dead. Those figures are going to change, and so we know that we'll be talking about so-called high capacity and what the Dems call high capacity. Kamala and Tampon Tim will make hay over this, as will MSNBC and CNN, and everybody in the world will make hay over this, which is a good reason to have your information well at hand when you get involved in conversations with people about this, and they start talking about how deadly these things are. You can remind them that more people are killed with hammers than with ARs, right? Well, you won't remind them because they don't know that. You'll have to educate them. I have some questions. Where were all the armed teachers? Where were all the armed coaches? Where were all the armed custodians? Where were all the armed administrators? Okay, because people have they not gotten this through their head yet? People send their kids to school, and now our schools are very, very security conscious. They're locked down. A parent can't get in without showing their ID and have their picture taken and being cleared and all that. But apparently some of these, schools are not, and you might say, well, this was a student and he got it in. Well, no kids getting into our schools with well, let me leave that aside, okay? What it comes down to is that when people send their kids to school, the school assumes the responsibility of the safety for those children. Simple as that, okay? If I bet that there's no gun signs all over that school, don't you think? Yeah. And whenever you prohibit people from being able to bring in the means for protection, for self-protection or protection of their kids, you assume responsibility for the safety of those kids. So one of the things that has to happen is that the schools have to understand, and maybe they need to get it in the pocketbook, that they're not doing their jobs. Now, you might say, well, but, it's a crazy world. They can't be responsible for, all that. Hey, how long have school shootings been going on? Quite a bit. How long have mass shootings been going on? There's nobody out there who should still be under this naive umbrella that it can't happen here. Nobody out there should be thinking that. Okay. Is this one of those don't try that in a small town? Well, if it's a small town and it's pretty, I guess the school, what is it? Barrow County Appalachia School. So Appalachia. So it sounds to me like it's one of those, maybe more rural schools to where a lot of people come to it from I don't know. I'm not saying that, but hey, it reaches out, right? What we're dealing with here is, some people will say evil. We're dealing with a psychological situation here. Now, can psychological be spurned by evil? Yes, it can. And evil by psychological? Yes, it can. But when you look at the nature of our country, when you look at the nature of families, when you look at the destruction of our communities and of the families and schools and everything, our society, it's no surprise that young people going through what they're going through, with the press, with the church, with everybody telling them that they ought to be scared of this, confused about that, mad about this, hate these people for that. It's no surprise that these things happen. The solution for this is a total change of society, which is not going to happen for a while. Maybe someday it will. I don't know. But those are my questions. So, where was the protection for these kids? We'll find out what kind of weapon it was. But they'll bury this. And they'll put out some stories. Get ready for some stories that you maybe shouldn't believe everything that you hear at first. You'll maybe hear a story about a heroic teacher that did something or other. I don't know. Realize that half of what you hear is a bunch of lies meant to make you think something, right? Okay. So anyway, this is a terrible thing that's happened. We anticipated it. I wouldn't doubt that more are going to happen. It's going to be the political. These children, the dead ones and the wounded ones, are going to be the political football that the Democrats play with to try to win the election and take your guns. I want to say a word to all those people who are just so smart, that they don't think that voting matters. And I'll say a word about them. If voting didn't matter, the other side wouldn't do it. And the other side is constantly trying to get their people to vote. But I want to use an example here. You ever watch a John Wayne movie? I'm sure most of you have. And I don't mean to get, racial here, but in so many of them, it might be the Indians maybe attacking the fort. It might be the damn Yankees attacking the Confederate homestead, whatever. That doesn't matter. Somebody out there is attacking where you're trying to defend. Okay? And everybody's fighting, or at least most of them are fighting. But there's some guy sitting over there on the bench saying, fighting back isn't going to do any good. It's all rigged. It's all been decided. It doesn't matter. That's the guy that says voting doesn't matter. I just want you to keep that in mind. We're getting so many people. This is an important election coming up, and that's why we know, right? And all the people that you know, now if that described you, what I just said, the guy that says it didn't matter, you're not going to help fight off the people who are trying to kill you and your family. You're not worthy of any respect. You all who know people like that, remember that. Okay. Our prayers are with these families, the children. We'll find out more about what has happened. But be ready to engage people on the other side about the truth about gun violence. The problem here was not that there were too many guns, but the guns were in the wrong hands, were allowed to be in the wrong hands, were allowed to get into the school, and there weren't enough guns down there to stop it. Okay? Y'all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.